Hi, this video is to basically present the facts that I've covered in my recent video, which was addressed to bankers and the livestock industry. And I have presented these facts in another video, but it was quite an angry, shouty video, and it is meant to wake people up to express the urgency of the situation, because, you know, a lot of people don't take notice of somebody sat there very calmly giving them the facts like a BBC News report. And, you know, my intention with that video, I just shared my heart basically and my passion, okay? And this video is just purely to look at the facts that support what I'm saying here. Now, if you've switched on your TV and the weatherman said there's a hurricane coming your way, you would know to, you know, close down the hatches, as it were, to take precautions, to take safety, to be prepared. So, you know, now myself and so many people are explaining, and you're not listening to them. The world isn't listening to them. The world's so busy fighting its wars, dropping its bombs, you know, building its nuclear power stations, destroying the Pacific Ocean with 3 melt-throughs, ignoring it. Okay, that now we do need to be prepared, because this methane threat is no joke, and it is coming. Okay, we do need to be prepared. We do need to take action now, not in the next 10 years, not in the next 5 years, but this year. Okay, and that means, you know, we are going to have to, we do need to end livestock farming. We need to abandon the meat industry. And, you know, the only way that's going to happen is with support of the corporate people now, because they took control of everything. We the people, we don't have the power to change. But we the people can change our diets. That's one thing we can do. Look at your life, people, and what are the things you have power to change in your life? Do you have the power to stop eating meat and dairy products? Yes, you do, and it is up to you to make that choice. And the bankers, like I say, they're going to have to write off the debt, okay, and print the money on a sustainable resource like hemp. It's sustainable. This present money system, economic system, is not sustainable, as I've explained in my other video, because it relies solely on imbalance, and it creates imbalance, and now it's creating a huge imbalance in the gases within our climate, and that is having an impact on our planet, you know. And this person, he is explaining something here. All who might dismiss this title as an exaggeration and the opening photo as alarmism owe it to their children and grandchildren and the future of humanity to read on. Okay, what is? Historic killer methane could erupt from Arctic. The severity of the threat and the tragic moral failure to address it. And it will be a tragedy. And so, you know, this is why I'm sharing the facts. This is why I've made so many videos in the past few days. You know, why? Because I'm just crazy. And I just, you know, I'm going crazy on wild conspiracy theories and, you know, exaggerations of the facts. No, not wild conspiracy theories. Lawfully evidenced concerns. Lawfully evidenced concerns. okay? And, you know, it is because of methane, warming from carbon emissions. And, you know, they are claiming consistently, okay, that CO2 is the problem. But, no, the major problem, you know, CO2 is the gnat, okay? That's the gnat that they're all straining at. As Jesus said, they will strain at gnats and swallow camels. And in this case, we're talking literally that they're straining at CO2 emissions while they are eating animals which are producing, you know, 100 times worse than CO2, methane, okay? And, you know, as I showed in this article here, they get carbon belching buses or power plants. Animal food production now surpasses both transportation industry and electricity generation as the greatest source of greenhouse gases. Yet astonishingly, if Americans could just cut back on animal foods by half, the effect on greenhouse gas emissions would be like garaging all US motor vehicles and vessels for as long as we keep our consumption down. So just by stop eating, just half the people who stop eating meat and milk will cut, it will have the same impact as if every car in America was suddenly garaged. Think about that. Think about how damaging the meat industry is, because not only are the cars still running and producing the CO2, but also we've got this massive amount of methane gas, which is up to 100 times more warming to the global climate. And, you know, we are witnessing methane eruptions, okay? Danger from the deep, new climate threat as methane rises from cracks in Arctic ice. Scientists shocked to find greenhouse gas 70 times more potent than CO2 bubbling from deep ocean. It's actually 100 times. It's only 70 times more potent when it's been in the atmosphere for a year or so. You know, and because like I say, they don't want to alarm people. You know, and this is a very, very serious issue. Okay? It is a very, very serious issue. And, you know, these are the methane explosions they create in craters, because methane explosions in Siberia, danger of methane explosions on Yamal Peninsula, scientists warn. More craters expected to form due to such eruptions as permafrost melts, and they are caused by global warming releasing methane gas. So the methane gas that we are producing is causing global warming that is then producing more methane gas. Again, back to Jesus, as I said in my other video, more produces more, less produces less. We produce methane, more methane, we're going to get more methane. We're producing less and less oxygen on this planet, the planet's producing less and less oxygen, we're going to get less and less oxygen. Okay? That's the law. That's universal law. That's the way it works. That's why the universe thrives on a system of abundance, not thrift. And that's why we need a financial system that's based on abundance, and let the human population, the human population will stabilise. But this thrift system is, you know, it is just wasteful. It's overproductive, and then it just wastes. There's waste because there's too much produced. You know, I mean, the disgusting amount of food that gets thrown away in Britain, it's just abominable. You know, so this is a very, very, very serious issue. It is not going to go away. A leading cause of everything. One industry that is destroying our planet and our ability to thrive on it. Okay. it's animal agriculture. Animal agriculture and our reliance on meat and dairy products. According to the United States Department of Agriculture, global agriculture dominated by livestock production and the grains grown to support it accounts for 30% of greenhouse gas emissions. That is a mean estimate, okay, as is written in, which one is it? I've still got that article. I don't think I've got it. No. It might be. I might have put this video's. Sorry. I'll just have a look to see if I've got the article there. You know, this work by Andy Bisek or Bicek is vastly underestimated. The role of animal agriculture in climate change is vastly underestimated because of calculation parameters in this thought-provoking essay. His primary legal interests include greenhouse gas and factory farm regulation. Okay. And he explains in this article that, you know, when they're making these estimates, like was shown in that other piece I wrote, they are dramatically underestimating. Why? Because they don't want to stop the livestock industry. And you know, this livestock industry clearing away rainforests, wildlife inhabited land is being cleared away for the sake of animal farming. And you know, this is, again, I'm not being alarmist when I say by 2020 2/3 of wild animals. And this is what's being reported in the press. So imagine how bad it really is, because we know they never give us the full truth. And a lot of it is because of logging and farming, you know, especially animal farming. There are ways to farm without destroying the natural environment, okay? This plantation style farming, it's got to stop. It isn't healthy, it's not natural, it's destructive. It is destructive. So, you know, we do need to get very, very, very serious now, you know. And as I've said here, you know, go vegan. That's one thing everybody can do. Okay, and in my other video I've asked the bankers, you know, to forget the debt. They're going to have to write it off, because this planet cannot pay it. And it is disgusting to even impose a debt on the life of this planet after it's, you know, the only reason why they've got anything at all is because of the life of this planet and what people have produced. For a pittance. They've suffered to produce it. They've suffered to give them everything they've got. And they've still got the audacity to impose a debt. And even charge interest. Even demand that the public borrow money to bail the banks out. And even that we pay interest on the money that we borrowed to bail the banks out. And are they going to pay us that money back? Oh no, their thing is interest free. Their bailout. And then they want a bail-in just to be able to dip their hands into your bank accounts, into people's bank accounts, and steal, and even a building society bail-in so they can start stealing so much percentage of people's homes. You know, these things, they're unsustainable. It's completely fraudulent, it's criminal, this is not legal. What is happening is not legal. It's all happening outside of universal law. It's a system of thrift and austerity. That is a crime against universal law of abundance in compassion. Thrift and austerity demands competition. They say only the fittest of the fittest shall survive. Well, you know what's fit for a human is our sanity and intelligence. And compassion shows that a human being is intelligent because they are capable of taking everything into account. They don't just think of themselves. They take other life into account. The impact of what they will do into account. And because of what we know now, because of the knowledge that we have a lot more to take into account. And we need to account for the fact that the way the present global system is operating, as I said, women with no rights for little girls having babies, the population will explode. Women need rights. They need security, their own independence, their own autonomy. Every woman needs that if you want to bring the global population down. This idea that you can just kill everybody off, sorry, that isn't why we're here. We need all the people that are alive today now to help to clear up the corporate vandalisms and pollutions, and the people within the corporations. Like I say, you need to actually show your human face and get active. Get active, change within. You're going to have to change. You're going to have your little battles within and get rid of the deadheads, basically, because they are deadheads. The people who aren't accepting the facts, they just want the world to go on and on and on as it serves them. A lot of them have secret lives, you know, that involve abusing children. And it's that consciousness behind that's, you know, that is the driving force of ignorance. Because, you know, people who abuse children need social ignorance. They need ignorance. And we can no longer afford this ignorance. Ignorance will destroy our planet. And like I say, you know, this is a serious issue. Despite the looming shadow cast by this danger, it has yet to make its way into public consciousness. Why? Because the meat industry is a big industry. And these people don't want to change. Okay? And that's why I've said, you know, the only way to do it, the bankers are going to have to just compensate them, and we're just going to have to stop. They're going to have to stop and change into something else. And so the bankers and the corporations, you're going to have to invest in the people that are dependent on the meat industry. You're going to have to invest in turning that industry around into producing a food supply source that is sustainable and has, you know, is ecologically friendly, has less of a damaging impact on the environment. And, you know, wheat production in particular, people need to eat a lot less wheat. Even the worldwide environmental movement has continued to focus on human-generated emission of global warming gases and has not grasped the dire implications of the accelerated catastrophe which could ensue if nature's own stockpile becomes activated, an immense storehouse containing far more carbon than humans have generated since the onset of the industrial age. Though the sweeping scale of this existential threat, combined with its potential irreversibility, once triggered, may be leading to psychological denial, the reality of the danger compels humanity to take all precaution and spare no expense in both understanding and reducing it. Now suppose there was suddenly huge methane emissions and, you know, millions of people started to die, and all the animals. And then we've got a planet full of nuclear power stations. And how many of them are going to go into meltdown? These nuclear power stations need to be stopped now. All of them. We need to stop them. Okay? Nuclear power production, end it. You know what I mean? Like I said in my last video, you know how these people can suddenly have all their benefits cut and, you know, driven to suicide or getting ill? 80% of them, 80 people a month, are dying after being declared fit for work. Because the stress, they're ill, they're disabled, suddenly they've got no money. Oh, you can go to work when they know damn well they can't. And so then they get even more ill, because stress does create illness. There's no doubt about it, it's a well-known fact. Stress makes people ill. And stress can drive people to suicide. And it does drive people to suicide. And, you know, but this is the kind of system that we are living in, where these people, oh yeah, you can just all go and die. 80 of you a month can just die because we just haven't got enough money to feed you. But life is not about money, okay? You're unsustainable money bankers. Life is about balance and, you know, cooperation, interaction, dependence and independence, interdependence. It's not about, you know, the biggest and strongest ruling the weakest people. No. Because, you know, the weakest person on earth could be the most intelligent person on earth. Because physical strength has got nothing to do with being fit for a human. The fittest are the most intelligent. And so we need to accept intelligence now. I'll leave you the link to this man's report, Arctic News. You know, Professor Peter Wadhams. I will leave you this link. Please read it. Please understand. You know, I don't make these videos for the pleasure of it. I really don't. I do it, I make them because I hope that people will hear, will connect with what I'm trying to say. That you can understand that, look, you know, this isn't the BBC telling you some crap that, you know, oh yeah, don't trust the BBC, or some alternative news media like Alex Jones, you know, going crazy, getting you all worried about, you know, the attack from Russia or whatever. This isn't, you know, a joke. I'm making these videos because I am aware, because I do understand. So I'm sharing intelligence. I'm shouting, fire, fire, to get you out of danger. To help you get prepared for approaching danger. So that we can ward off the danger. Because the kind of things that will happen if this comes out is really I mean, it's, you've just got absolutely no idea. And this is what I mean, that we do need to do it now, because otherwise I think we've got about 20 years at most, you know. And that, I think, to say we've got 20 years is it's not a conservative estimate, let's put it that way. And it is very, very deadly serious. You know, when I say everybody's got to stop eating meat and drinking milk now, really, I mean yesterday. It would have been better if it was yesterday, but no, yesterday's gone. But we do need to do it quick, and we need to find ways of growing food, which we can do. We've got the technology, and this is where the jobs will come in, when the bankers stop clinging on to their ridiculous system of thrift in austerity and get with universal law and create an abundant money supply on an abundantly sustainable resource like hemp that could provide everything we need. Clothing, food, you know, animal food. Because we need to get real. We need eco-industry. We need to cut the animals' consumption. Just stop it. You know, maybe cut down. If you've really got to, eat meat once a month. But we need to take steps, and these steps need to be on a global scale, and that's why, you know, we know the corporations and the bankers with their money have got total control over everybody. Their money will buy anything. It will buy children, for goodness sake. People are selling their children. That is how much power the money has. So the money now, these men with the money, you need to start investing it. And you need to as I say, the animal industry, the livestock industry just needs to stop. Because, you know, we are losing wildlife. And, you know, like I say, 2/3 of wild animals. And this is including creatures in the sea who are dying at an alarming rate. And, you know, Fukushima does need sorting out. It's a global problem. It can't be left to Japan to deal with it. You're going to have to get your heads together. If you can build the Hadron Collider, you can do something about what is going on. Because we can't leave that to leak out into the ocean for the next blooming 2,000 years, which is the estimate now. Or is it 1,500 years? It's completely crazy. And because we've got these threats coming, if there was a global catastrophe, what would happen to the nuclear power plants? We need to wake up. Every single nuclear power plant on Earth needs to shut down. And the bankers, again, you need to compensate the owners of and runners and the people that are working in them. You need to compensate. You need to give them money, invest in them to switch over to something more sustainable. You're going to have to use the money now wisely, okay, because we can't keep gambling, and this level of destruction that is happening on Earth just in order to keep a few psychopaths in power. But power is for sharing. If power isn't shared, it stagnates. Because power is like water. It's, you know, the water of life. That's what gave us power. That's our power. Water. And water needs to be shared. It needs to keep moving. It isn't supposed to just sit in one little place. Because it will stagnate. And so the power now, you know, we do need to get real. And like I say, you know, the system, all the ignorance that is going on in the world, at the core of it is to protect criminals, okay? A criminal consciousness that does not want to live within universal law. It's got insane desires, insane fantasies. It buys children, it traffics children, it creates an industry of child abuse, okay? Because it is just a crazy, crazy, crazy system, and we do need to sort it out, you know. Although carbon dioxide persists much longer in the atmosphere, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change states that methane is a full 72 times more powerful than during its first 20 years. It's in fact, like I say, 100 times more powerful in the first 2 years. 100 times more powerful in the first 2 years. So that's how quick we need to stop eating animals. You know, I'm not saying we need to get rid of all cows and all sheep and all pigs. I do believe we have a duty to keep a remnant of them because they have sustained us, and we have a duty to look after them. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with somebody who's keeping a couple of cows, and, you know, cows do produce a bit too much milk sometimes, so you might get some milk. If you're keeping hens, yeah, you might get a few eggs. If you're keeping sheep, looking after sheep, then, yeah, it helps them to shear them, but you just don't shear them to the bone. So, you know, when you do things sustainably and kindly, with compassion, that's when we get with, you know, balance. It is the prevailing view of the scientific community that earlier major releases of gas resulting in the most catastrophic wipeouts in planetary history. 2 critically important British documentaries explore the scientific inquiry linking methane to both the Permian and the PETM mass extinction events. So, you know, that's why I'm saying we need to shut the nuclear power stations down. Because if this happens, you know, we need to do everything we can to try and stop it from happening, to take action now. But if this happens, and we've got all these nuclear power plants running, will there ever be any life on our planet again? We need to switch those nuclear power stations off immediately. And we need to put every single effort that we have into dealing with Fukushima. You know, huge amounts of money are going to need to be spent. You're going to have to get rid of this gold. Gold will not sustain it. Only hemp. The tree of life. Okay, that's hemp. The tree of life. That's the only way that you're going to save this planet. The holy herb. It really is the holy herb. And it's been criminalised. It's been ignored in favour of the petrochemical industry, which again, the petrochemical industry is producing methane. It's not the CO2 coming out of the cars, it's the petrochemical industry. But we can have electric cars, can't we, and produce clean electrical energy, and there are ways of using even fossil fuels cleanly. And that's why you bankers are going to do a massive turnaround. You're going to have to do it as quick as these people lose their benefits, okay? As quickly as these people get told, no money for you. Go and sign on. As quickly as these people get told, basically, 80 of you a month are going to die. Because you're unsustainable. But no, what's unsustainable is the animal farming. And let's face it, people only eat what's in their supermarket shelves because that's what they've been raised to eat. Because that's the way you, the corporations and bankers and your governments, have persuaded people. You know, I remember growing up at school and seeing the picture of the cow on the wall and saying we get calcium from it and this from it and that from it. And I even thought it was disgusting then, and I was only a child. So, you know, this is time. It's a massive, 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 huge wake-up call. It's a huge wake-up call. Okay. How severe is the current threat? Numerous, quite authoritative and politically neutral sources, you see, politically neutral, such as the World Bank and the International Energy Agency, are now in agreement that if global carbon emissions are not dramatically reduced very quickly, the planet will be seeing temperature increases of 5 degrees C or more by the latter part of this century. Such a human-generated increase could very well take the place of volcanic eruptions in Siberia and could set the stage for a potential mass release of ancient methane. You know, and it is a very, very, very serious threat. It's a real threat. It's as real as if NASA had just said, we've just noticed that there's this huge asteroid going to hit planet Earth in 20 years' time. We would need to be taking steps, wouldn't we, to avert it, to be thinking of ways, well, how can we stop this from happening? And as I say, the people, we haven't got any power to change things. We can change what we eat, we can change what we drink, what we wear, but we cannot change how industries are operating or how the banking system is operating. We cannot change the politicians that you have placed into power. A lot of them corrupted. A lot of them, you know, they're child abusers. And that's where they are at, why they are where they are, because they can be trusted to do whatever is asked of them because, you know, they're so scared of anybody ever finding out that actually they're a child abuser. They want to look to the world that they're a judge or, you know, a politician or a minister or a police officer or whatever. Well, they're not usually police officers, it's usually police, you know, senior officers. But, you know, we just need to understand now that this just cannot go on. All this money that is being spent on bombs, on bombing people. We've got money for that, but we've got no money to deal with Fukushima. We've got no money to change. You know, you've got the money, bankers. You need to spend it now. You need to spend it on saving planet Earth. Do not think you're going to be able to run away into your little bunkers, because you will have nothing to come out to. Okay? How many nuclear melt-throughs will there be if you don't shut them down now? And as I say, you know, the meat industry does need to stop today. Okay, this year. It needs investment. It needs investment to allow these people that are, you know, that do rely on that livestock industry in every nation. They need, you know, the World Bank is going to have to step in every nation and, you know, give farmers subsidies so that they can switch and educate the people, use the media to educate the people, alert the public to the danger, in the same way as if a meteor was going to strike Earth in 20 years' time and it was going to wipe out 2/3 of wildlife and probably 2/3 of us as well. And if people can't change, then, you know, expect what's coming. You know, there will be 2/3 of life wiped out on this earth, and whether the 1/3 that's left can ever survive, when we look at the amount of nuclear power plants that are going to be abandoned and left to run into meltdowns. They are a very serious threat, those nuclear power stations. So, you know, I hope people realise now, having, you know, looked at the information, you know, the reality of it, that people understand the urgency and they understand why I've spoken with such passion in my previous videos on this subject, because it's something that's always been a very deep seated concern of mine. Is not just my own life, but you know, the life of our planet. It has deeply distressed me to live in this world and to be witnessing the insanity of the way we're living on it, when there are so many happier, more balanced and sustainable ways. And I do know that the only reason why we're living in this present system is because we're being governed by psychopaths, narcissists, covert narcissists, and sadistic, among them all, sadistic child abusers, sadists and sadomasochists. So, you know, that is a consciousness that is creating the imbalance, that absolutely refuses to act with new knowledge. It wants always to live with ignorance and lies. And that's why we need to abandon those lies now. We need to abandon the ignorance. We need to get with the law, universal law. A lot of people understand it as common law, and today it's updated. It includes human rights, women's rights, children's rights, animal rights, plant rights, earth rights. That's universal law. And, you know, all the people need to get with that now. And especially the people in positions of power. You have the most responsibility. You are now most accountable for your actions and how you use your power and influence among those around you. It is very important that the people who have the power use it wisely, compassionately, and understand the true nature of the threat. And, you know, especially for the wildlife and for the people who, what life have they had when you've got 4.5 billion people living on a couple of dollars a day in absolute poverty? What life have these people had, you know, to put such huge sums in your bank accounts that are so huge you could create such a huge debt in order to what? Buy you planes and your big houses and your fancy clothes and your jewellery and your holidays abroad and wherever, your little island somewhere. I mean, how, you know, life has paid for those things. And you can see the damage that it's done, the damage that's been left behind. And you are in debt, bankers and corporations. You are in debt to planet Earth. Never mind asking the people to repay, you know, the debts that you've created. And now you owe to planet Earth. You really do. And as I say, you are going to spend your money on planet Earth because you will not get another planet.